Hello, now in this we will see installing XenServer. Installing XenServer, before installing XenServer, first you should know what is the hardware requirements. So XenServer host sister requirements are like whatever the RAMs we need, hard disk, NICs and all that. So while XenServer will generally be deployed on a server class hardware, like a server class hardware, but server is also compatible with, the XenServer is also compatible with many models of workstation and laptops also. So basically it is actually installed on the server class hardware, which has a large amount of hardware, RAMs and processor and all that, but we can still install it on normal workstation and even on laptops also. So these are the recommendation specifications we have. So first, XenServer can make use of 1 TB of RAM. As I said, like it is for the server class hardware. So in server class hardware you can have 1 TB RAM also, not in our workstation, but still in our workstation or laptop we can install it. But maximum it can go up to 1 TB RAM it can support. And also the network interface card, it can support up to 16. And then the processor can be 160 logical processor per host it can support. But what is the requirement, minimum requirement it can have? So first, the CPU, one or more 64-bit x86 CPUs with 1.5 GHz minimum. So it can run on single CPU or many with 1.45 GHz minimum, and also 64-bit. But if you have 2 GHz or faster multi-core CPU, that is good, that is recommended. To support the virtual machines running Windows, an Intel VT or AMD V64-bit x86 based system with one or more CPUs is required. So if we want to run Windows based virtual machines, virtual host, virtual guest, then we require the Intel VT or AMD V supported features in our CPU at least. Then for the RAM, it can run on 2 GB RAM also, but it will run only XenServer, because when you go for creating the virtual machines, those virtual machines will not run because you have only 2 GB RAM. But if you have 4 GB RAM, it is recommended that at least you can run one virtual machine. Then disk space is locally attached storage, whatever the locally attached storage we have, PATA, SATA or SCSI, with at least 16 GB of disk space minimum for just installing and running the XenServer. But when you create the virtual machines, it required more. So 60 GB is recommended. Or even we can have the storage area network via hot bus adapter. Not via the software if we are installing with multipath boot from SAN. That means we are installing XenServer itself in SAN, storage area network storage. So for connecting the network storage, we need for hardware hot bus adapters. We can't use software hot bus adapters, software based. So product installation, create 2 4 GB partitions for the XenServer host and control domain. Now remember, when we are installing the XenServer, so whatever the hard disk you have, it will do what? It will use this hard disk for only virtual machine data. It will create the storage repository for storing the virtual machine data into it. But for the operating system, for the Xen kernel hypervisor, what it do? It creates 2 4 GB partitions. So 4 GB and 4 GB 2 partitions. In first 4 GB partition, it keeps the XenServer hypervisor, the kernel hypervisor itself, operating system. The other one is kept for the backup. The rest of the all space will be used in the storage repository. In the storage repository, so that it can store the virtual machine data. So whatever the virtual machine data, it will be stored on the rest of the storage, rest of the space. Then for the network, 100 Mbps or faster NIC minimum, or 1 or more gigabit NICs is recommended, because if you create virtual machines, then those virtual machines will be accessed from the physical server, outside the physical server. So for that you need at least these number of these megabits or gigabit NICs, or 1 or more NICs can be more good. Like for when you're creating the faster P2V, physical to virtual and export input data transfer, and VM live migration also. Live migration means if you have two Zen servers, physical servers running, then you can migrate one virtual machine from one server to other server, and live migration means the virtual machines will run at the time when it is running, we can directly move the machine from one server to other server. That means the virtual machine is running and still it will move. That is live migration. Now for redundancy, multiple links are recommended. So we can have multiple links and we can combine those links together to create the redundancy. So if one link goes down, then still our server will be accessible from the other server. The configuration of NICs will differ, depends on the storage type. The storage type which we are using for the NIC, it will depend. So networking, it actually have one interface for the management, then it has for the data storage, and then we have network interface for the virtual machine access. So we have different type of use for the NIC. So it depends on the type of storage we are using. The NIC is the configuration of NICs will depend on that. We have the management interface, we have the interface to access the storage, then we have network interface for managing the for accessing the virtual machines. These three kind of traffic we can have in our XenServer. So depending on that, we can create multiple NICs configurations. Now this is the minimum configuration required, but the maximum it can go up to this configuration. Then to manage the XenServer, we need XenCenter. So the XenCenter is a simple Windows-based interface, Windows-based application. So we can install it on these Windows machines, Windows 8, Windows 8.17, Windows Vista, Server 2012, R2, Server 2012, 2008, 2003 also. Then on these operating systems, we need at least .NET Framework version 4, and if it is not there, then you have to install it. CPU speed can be worked with 750 megahertz minimum, 1 gigahertz or faster, it is good for us. 1 GB RAM is enough for it because it is not going to run anything here. It is only going to run the instruction. So from this application, this XenCenter, we only send the instruction to XenServer and we get the output. Then disk space 100 MB is enough because it's a small software. Network 100 Mbps or NIC or the faster will be good. It is only to send and receive the instructions. Then screen resolution at least 1024 by 768 pixel minimum. It is minimum for the application interface. Now for the licensing, we have two editions which comes with the license, that is enterprise and standard edition. So all editions of XenServer use the same familiar licensing mechanism as used by many other Citrix products. So after purchasing, you will be provided with the license key, and the license key should be installed on either directly on Citrix on a Windows server running the Citrix license server software, or Linux based Citrix license server virtual application. So this application we can download it from Citrix site, and this application is available for Windows also and Linux also. So we install this software first, this Citrix license server software, either in Windows or Linux, and then we install the key on this, and then with the help of this license server, we can give the license to our XenServer. Because remember, in XenServer itself, you don't have any interface. You don't have a graphical interface where you can do graphical things. XenServer itself gives you only one interface, text-based interface itself. You can always, you can manage some of the things from there. You will get the command shell also, but not everything. For everything, you can manage it from graphically. If you want to manage, you can manage it from XenCenter. Or from command line also, you can manage it through the SSH connection. So for installing the licensing, it will happen remotely. So for installing the license, first you install the Citrix license server and console into it. Then obtain the system, Citrix server license files and load them into this license server, and then configure the license for each Citrix XenServer host using the XenCenter or using the command line. So first you get the license, install it into the license server, and then you can provide the license, give the license, configure the licensing for each server one by one using the XenServer graphical tool or XenCLI. It goes like this: get the license first, put it into the license server, and then provide this to all these virtual machines, all the XenServer hosts using the XenServer. Now for the installation method, as we know the XenServer is going to be installed directly on the hardware, so we will install it like just we install the other operating system. So for that we need what? We need the installation media. Installation media is your CD. It is a small operating system, so comes into the CD also, and we get the CD. So we have a bootable CD, or we can have a bootable flash also. So installs for both the XenServer host and XenServer are located on the installation media. So the XenServer host installation is also in the installation CD media, and also the XenServer software is there. It is also in the same media. The installation media also includes the README first, which provides the description of the helpful resources and links. So first, installation methods. What methods we have? So installation methods we have: first, install from the CD DVD or CD directly itself. So first you can download the installer's ISO file and burn it into CD, and then you boot the machine from the CD, and then you can install normally like we install the other operating systems. Or we can use a network based installation also. So we can configure the network accessible TFTP server to boot using the Pixie, and then download the files by using the TFTP. Or we can install the XenServer from the remote disk on SAN also. So either we can install it directly on the directly attached storage on the server, or we can install the XenServer on remote storage, that is SAN. Then after the installation, it will ask you for the supplement packs also. So you can install any required supplement packs after installing the XenServer. And to do so, mount the appropriate installation media on the XenServer host and then run the script install sh. It is located in the root directory of the CD. Now it will actually give you the option when we are starting the installation for the XenServer. It will ask you that whether you want to install any supplement packs, yes or no. So if you have any, then you will say yes. And if you don't have, then you will say no. If you say yes, then after the installation it will give you the option to install the supplements pack. Then upgrading means upgrading the software, upgrading the application operating system like XenServer operating system. So if you are having 5.6 or 5.0 or 6.0, you want to upgrade it to 6.5, then you can do it by using the same installation media. So the installer presents the option to upgrade if it detects a previously installed version of XenServer. So when you start the installation, like in your machine, it is already 6.0 is installed, and when you start the installation with the 6.5 installation media, then it will automatically detect that there is an older version available and you want to do the upgrade or not. Now if you select the upgradation, the upgrade process follows the first time installation process, but several setup steps are bypassed and the existing settings are retained, including networking configuration and system time and date and so on. So if you do the upgrade, and why we do the upgrade? So that we can keep the previous settings. So if you don't want to have any previous settings, then you can do what? You can go for the fresh installation. Otherwise you can go for the upgrade and it will keep the previous settings intact and upgrade the hypervisor to the new one. So how we'll do the installation? So first we need to get the installation media, that's CD or a flash, bootable flash, and then what, we put it into our machine, and then we go to the BIOS and we check that first boot device, CD or flash, and then we boot from that, and then the installation will start. So first time when you start, it will give you this welcome screen. Press enter to start the installation. It will start the installation. It is a text-based interface. So follow the instruction. It's very simple, and then you can complete the installation. So it is booting, it will take a little time and then it will give you the options for installation. It's detecting the hardware. So after welcome screen, you will see this. So first it is saying that select the keyboard layout. So whatever the keyboard layout you have, you will select that keyboard layout. Now my keyboard layout is US, so I'm selecting the US. Now what? You can press, now you see this is, the mouse will not work here. So you can use tab, spacebar and enter to change and select the options. So the option is already select. You can say, you can go for up down arrow key to change the selection, and after the selection press tab to go to OK and press enter to OK. Now it is saying that this setup tool can be used to install or upgrade XenServer both, and on your system or restore your server from backup also. It is also used to restore the server from backup. Installing XenServer will erase all data on the disk selected for use. So whatever the disk you select, it is going to remove everything from it. So make sure if you have any data on that disk, you should take the backup of those. Otherwise it will going to remove everything. And if you have mistakenly come here in this screen, then you can have a time here to reboot again. But if you are sure, then you can go and press OK. And if you are installing it for the installing it in the network storage, so sometimes the drivers are not detecting, so you can load the drivers by using the F9. I'm sure what I'm doing, so I will go with OK. Then it will go, it will give you the license agreement, user license agreement. So you should read and accept. So after reading it, we can say accept. So I'll go with accept, select the accept and press enter. Now it is asking you that which disk you want to store the virtual machine's storage, which storage repository you want to create. So we have in this machine, we have a disk of 100 GB. So it is showing that here. It is showing that 100 GB disk is there. And the name of the disk is SDA. Now SDA, it shows when you have SATA or SCSI, so you will see SD, and A is for the first disk. If you have multiple disks, then you will see SDA, then SDB, SDC, SDD. I am having only one disk, so it is saying SDA, and this one is already selected. So if you have multiple, then you will get option to select which disk you want to use for the storage repository and which used to create or store the virtual machine data. Now remember, it is asking for virtual machine data. It is going to create the storage repository for virtual machines. It is not asking you for selecting the installation of hypervisor, kernel hypervisor, Xen hypervisor. Xen hypervisor is going to be installed on this hard disk itself, creating a separate 4 GB partition, and rest of the space it is going to use for virtual machine data. Then it is asking for the next option. It is saying enable thin provisioning. Thin provisioning is good optimized storage for Xen desktop. So in future, if you want to use Xen desktop on this XenServer, then you should select and enable the thin provisioning. Otherwise you can go by not selecting this thin provisioning. So when you select it, it will enable the thin provisioning. Otherwise it will go for thick provisioning. So if you want to select, then you can press tab and the marker will go to that square, and then you do what? Press the space bar to select. Select this select. So whatever you want to select, you can just move there and press space bar. So after that, when you done the selection, then you can press tab to go OK and press OK. Now where you are installing this XenServer, so we are installing it from local media. So it is selecting the local media. Otherwise we can install it through the network either using HTTP or FTP protocol, or we can download the files by using the NFS protocol. But I am installing it from the local media, so I will go with local and tab and OK. Now it is asking me that do you have any supplement pack and you want to install it. So if you have, then you will select yes, and it will give you the option to install it after the installation complete. I don't have, so I will go for no. Now it is asking you to check and verify your installation media. installation source. So if suppose your DVD, CD or installation flash sometime have some problem or scratches, so sometime it will not install properly. It says this file is not copy, that file is not able to copy after starting the installation and waste our time. So if you don't want to waste your time, then you can verify the installation source now. It will verify that all the files and all the data is able to copy or not, and if it is, then what, it will go for installation. But I know that my media is okay, so I will not increase one more step, so I will skip the verification. If you are not sure that your DVD or installation source is not good, maybe it is having some problems, so you can verify it before going for the installation. So doing half or corrupt installation is not good. You have to just check it. Now, for example, if you have a problem in your media and you start the installation, it will remove the old one also, and the new one is also not completed properly. So error, and you will not get anything. So make sure the media is okay, and after that you can go for installation. So I know I'm having a good one, so I will go for OK. Now it is asking for the password or setting the password for the root user. Root user is what, the administrator. In Windows, the administrator user name is administrator itself. But here the name of the administrator is root. The administrator which has all the access, uncontrolled, unconditional access on these all resources. Default administrator. And because it is using the Linux kernel, so it is administrator name is root. So you can set whatever the password you want. And without password, it will not allow you to install. So after setting the password, I press OK. Now it is saying what IP address you want to have. You can get the IP address through the SCP, or you can set the static IP. Now mostly it is a server, so basically we should have static IP. So I'm selecting static, and then IP address I want, I will copy, I will give the IP address. And then whatever the subnet mask you have, you can give that subnet mask. Then also the gateway, whatever the gateway you have. And then OK. Now it is asking that what will be your XenServer name. So you can make sure it is using the default name there. So if we have to make sure that the name is good, and name is like the name which we can access. So I will go for OK, XenServer 1. So this is the name for my XenServer. Then it is asking what is your DNS server, one or more DNS server IP addresses. Now if I don't give the DNS server, if I say I don't want, it will not allow me. It says you need to have at least one name server. So you have to have at least one name server added into this XenServer. Then I will go and press OK. Then it is asking for the time zone. So whatever the time zone you have, you can select Africa, America, Asia, whatever you have, you can select the time zone. Then you can select the city, your area time zone. So whatever you have, you can just select it and press OK. Then it is asking you that how you want to update the time. So you have one option using NTP. NTP is what, network time protocol, and it is going to update the time automatically from internet time servers. So there are time servers available in NTP servers available on internet, and it knows the servers, so it can update the time from there automatically if your machine is connected to internet. Or we can manually enter the time. Now if I select manual, then what it will do, it will after the installation complete, it will ask me to update the time manually. It will take the default time from my motherboard, my system, and then if it is not right, then we can update it. So basically it will give me the option to update the time, whatever the time we have. So I'm going for manual so that I will show you that how it will ask. If you select using NTP, so it will automatically update the time from internet. It will not show anything. So I'm going for manual and OK. Now in this step, it is all options we have selected. Now it is giving you the final warning that are you sure that you want to install, because when you select the install server, now it is going to remove everything from the hard disk which we have selected. So now you are sure, you don't have anything there, you want to format everything, then you can go and select install XenServer now. Now it has started the installation. It will not take much time, as because it is a very small operating system, very light operating system, very light, so that all the processing will go for only virtual machines. So it will take a little time and then it will complete the installation. But before completing the installation, it will ask me to update the time. Now as you see, it is asking me to set up the time, and it has taken the time from my system, my motherboard firmware. So I think it is okay. If it is not okay, then you can press tab and then change years, month or day or time, and when it is good, then you can press OK. Now it is completing the installation, and almost it is done. So it is done. Now it is saying press reboot, so I say OK, and it is now going to reboot and going to be started. Okay, now it is started, and this is the first interface you see. This is the XenServer, and this is your interface. It's a text-based interface. Now we have some options here, but we can't manage everything. What we are seeing here, the first is the display status. In this side, in the right side, you can see what is the status. It is showing the name of the server, the type, version, management network parameters. Management network parameters, that means the interface and the IP address which we can use for managing this XenServer. We can press the enter to check the SSL key fingerprints also. Now press enter to check the fingerprint key, and F5 to refresh refresh this status. Now fingerprint key is actually the key which you get when you access the server through the SSH protocol remotely. When you access it remotely, so you will get this fingerprint key, and you can see it by pressing enter. So this is a fingerprint key when we access it through the SSH. Key fingerprint shown when logging in remotely, SSH, and key fingerprint shown when connecting from XenCenter. It is to make sure that the XenCenter, it is to make sure the server, we are connecting the right server, and whatever the communication we are doing, it will be secure by using the key. Then the next option is showing the network management interface. It is showing the management interface, settings, IP addresses and host name, and whatever the protocol. And no configurations are there. You can just press F5 to refresh it, and when you press enter, so it takes you here, and you can do what? You can configure the interface by using the enter key. You can change the IP address and all these things from here. You can see the DNS server, you can see the network time protocol, and you can see those internet servers where we can update the time. You can test the network also. Testing the network, you can just press enter, and then you can it has to provide the password for the root administrator. Then you can do these things. You can ping the local address like 127, you can ping the gateway, you can ping the kernel org external site, or you can ping the custom IP address what you want to ping. So by pinging these, you can just check the connectivity is working or not. Like for example, I will ping this 127 or I will ping gateway. I select and press OK. And it is saying pinging successful, we get the reply. So it is connected to gateway also. So just like that, we can do custom ping also. So it says which IP address, I say 10.1.1.2 and it is also successful. So and then press escape to exit from here. Then you can display the NIC, whatever the NIC network interface card you have, the name and the address, MAC address. And then if you have any problem with your interface, then we can do emergency network reset. We can also do it from here, and it will do what? It will reset everything of network. But before doing this, you should read what it is saying in the right side. It is saying before running this command, shut down the running VMs, disable the high availability feature if it is enabled on the boot. Okay, so these are the network configurations. You can see the authentication. You're logged in as a root. You can press enter to see login, log out. You can log out, you can change the password and change the logout time also. Then these are the some settings you can do. Then you have virtual machine setting. You can see what VMs are running in this host. You can check the performance and you can see all VMs. But you can't create VMs from here. It is only to see. You have option to check the disk and storage repositories, but you can't do any more things. You have option to manage the pool also. You have option to manage hardware and BIOS information. You can see keyboard and time zone. You can change also time zone and keyboard layout. You can change the configure the remote service configurations. You can have backup and update, restore, technical support. You can go for reboot or shutdown. And then here you have the command line shell. So if you want to do something directly on the XenServer, then you can go for this command shell. When you press enter, it will give you this command shell. It is a Linux based command shell where you can manage this XenServer through the command line. But remember, the Linux commands are different and XenServer commands are different. And when you press exit, you will back to the status. So this is the XenServer we have. Whatever you want to do, you have to do it remotely by using the XenCenter or command line. So this is XenServer installation. We have installed the XenServer. It is now running and we want to do what? We want to manage it. Then we have to manage it from remotely. So in this topic, we saw that how we can install the XenServer and how it looks, what is the display, what is the interface it gives by default after the installation, and what are the installation method and how we can install the XenServer.